Good morning, Melissa.
Good morning. How are you?
Fine. How are you?
Good.
Good morning, Kingston. Good morning, our special guests that are with us from across Ontario. We've had an amazing month of June saluting women in trades and manufacturing. And this is our last presentation for the month of June. We have some great special guests that Josie will be introducing in a few moments. And just some housekeeping notes. Please keep your mics on mute, and in the Q&A section of the chat, you can certainly ask your questions and we will answer those as best to our ability afterwards. And we have some announcements. So thank you again for those that have been with us for the month of June through these presentations. We appreciate your support, and we look forward to this morning's presentation of saluting our youth in trades. So Josie, would you do the honors, please?
Certainly. Thanks so much, Gabby, and welcome everybody. I'm very excited to introduce to you three wonderful, passionate people in education. Please join us today with Melissa Cox, Geoff Petznik, and Jason Kenneville from the Limestone District School Board Expanded Opportunities team. They're going to talk about learning how to learn together. They are building teacher capacity, engaging students, and promoting exciting new career pathways for students. So a little bit about each speaker. Jason Kenneville. Jason has been a teacher with the Limestone District School Board since 1999. He started his career teaching junior intermediate students and developed an engaging classroom practice that focused on integrated hands-on learning that supported his students' ability to connect to the curriculum. He ran the QECVI Family of Schools Elementary Technology Program, was an itinerant experiential teacher for 2 years, and is now the experiential learning consultant for the board. We also have Geoff Pasnick with us. Geoff is the expanded opportunities consultant with the Limestone District School Board. Geoff began his career as a self-employed licensed carpenter. He then transitioned into restoration and heritage homes after completing 2-year diploma in heritage carpentry and millwork. He then attended Queen's University for his diploma in education. He started teaching for the Limestone District School Board in 1999 and has taught carpentry, cabinet making, green energy, communications, technology, automotive, and welding. And we have Melissa Cox. Melissa is currently the Pathways and Equity Consultant at Limestone District School Board. Prior to this role, she was a lead student success teacher for 5 years. Her teaching subjects are secondary mathematics and computer science. She is the president of QSLMA, which is a chapter within Ontario Association for Mathematics Educators. So we are thrilled to have you three here today. Please take it away. I understand, Geoff, you are going to begin.
I think it's
Geoff, can you hear us?
I think it's Jason going first, right?
Oh, Jason? Okay.
No, in fact, it's going to be my secondary colleagues are going to start, and I'm the finish.
Okay. All
Can
right.
everyone see the screen?
Yes, your screen's up. It's all working.
Okay, awesome.
Wonderful. Well, welcome everybody, and thank you for inviting us to this opportunity. It's very exciting. Our work is really rewarding. The things that we get to do with students to help them see their pathway into the future. And as a previous tradesperson, I really do strongly believe that it's a great career. It's a very honest career, very rewarding. So what a perfect role. I get to share my love of the trades, my love of carpentry with my students and help them sort of steer through their secondary career. To find maybe what they're looking for as a first choice in a career. So essentially, a lot of my role is the Specialist High Skills Major Program, which is a program for grade 11 and 12 students, sort of like an enrichment program, where students will self-identify in one of the 19 different economic sectors that are available in the province. This will happen sort of fall of their grade 11 year. They connect with their classroom teacher, their guidance counselor, and their co-op teacher, who are all a part of a team to help them navigate into a graduation. They can take this program at any of their different pathways, and it really is just, it meets all the requirements of graduation with some really added flavor for the sector they're interested in. And as you can see from the screen, there's a few different areas that they will navigate through over their 2-year career. So things like major credits, their certifications, reach ahead experiences, their co-ops, and then their CLAs. And a lot of these things came from industry 14 years ago when the program started. The industry said, we're getting students, we need them to be better trained for this specific area. So they help steer this vehicle to help students be successful. We'll move ahead to the next screen, please. So in the Limestone School Board, we offer many different sectors, from arts and culture to hospitality and tourism, to the traditional trades like construction, manufacturing, and right into health and wellness. And a lot of these programs are running in multiple schools in our board, but some are very unique to the geographic area. Something like forestry in Granite Ridge, they help manage the forest in and around Charlotte Lake. So very interesting, very unique, and very applicable skills for the kids. Next slide, please. So the first component for the students is, excuse me, they still have to take four of their major credits in their grade 11, 12 year, must be linked to the sector. So for instance, I'm going to use construction as something I've taught for a lot of years and very familiar with. So over the grade 11, 12 year, the students would take a grade 11 construction and a grade 12 construction and need 4 of those credits. And that keeps them really up to date with their teacher, with what's going on in that economic sector, and very, very relevant. At the same time, they still have to be completing all their regular OSSD requirements, their maths, their Englishes, things like that, but with a twist, and we'll talk about that later on when we get to the CLA component. The other wonderful thing about the Limestone School Board, for a lot of years, we've been offering focus programs. So things like our building construction internship program, where a student can go on from any school, can travel to a building site and build a house in a semester, fulfilling a lot of their requirements for their high skills major credits. So terrific programs are running, very unique programs, and have been running for many, many years. So they're really doing a terrific job. So that takes care of the 4 major credits. Then the other component is the students have to get certifications in the grade 11, 12 year. And most sectors are 6 to 7 different certifications that are industry driven and industry recognized. So for instance, there's 3, each course needs 3 mandatory certs. We know from employment data that students coming out of high school are much more employable if they have things like first aid, CPR, MS, and they also then can choose some optional credits or courses, related to the sector. So we offer things like chainsaw certification, working at heights, comedy writing, acoustic workshops, all kinds of really, really relevant things delivered by teachers who have gone on to get their train-the-trainer certification by previous students, which is really exciting to have students of ours. And I know Melissa and I and Jason, we're both all in the same boat where we've had our previous students come back now and are teaching courses for us, which is just really neat to see that transition of our students from high school to employment to becoming adults. And then we also have some great community partners who will deliver really unique sector-specific programs, like Trevor Strong of the Arrogant Worms delivered a comedy writing workshop on Zoom a couple of weeks ago with students. And they wrote songs and they played songs together. Like it was something to really see, to believe. Another component of the program is Reach Ahead or experiential learning experiences. And this is where Jason and I get to work a lot together in providing really cool opportunities for kids. And it really is a terrific job where we get to go out and go, hey, wouldn't it be fun to? And then we just fill in the blanks with some really cool stuff. So as you can see from some of the pictures, we're involved in the Santa Claus parades. We do tours at colleges where kids get to spend a day at the college level. Working on heavy equipment, learning how to diagnose heavy equipment. Even right down, one of our biggest events every year, well, we have 2 big events. One is our Women in Trades, we'll talk about later. The other is our Limestone Skills Competition, where we bring typically about 400 students from grade 4 to 12 to St. Lawrence College to basically take a day and do a challenge in a very specific sector. And from there can move on to the Ontario Skills Competition, to the national level skills, even to the world skills. So really a neat opportunity for kids to travel to that level and achieve that level of skill. So that's part of what the SHSM is all this really in-depth experiences. Another component is the contextualized learning activities, which makes it a really unique program. Students in their grade 11 and 12 year are required to complete some units in a different classroom. So for instance, in a math classroom, they would do, let's say, a construction, if they're a construction SHSM, they would complete math courses related to laying out a building foundation, for instance. What does Pythagorean theorem look like in a math class compared to a construction class? So again, very, very relevant to their sector. So that learning continues not just in a wood shop, but right through into the classroom in the academic side, which led to our expansion of that into our elementary counterparts that Jason's going to talk about later. Oh, frozen slide. There it is. Another big piece for the program is co-op. In grade 11 and 12, students have to complete at least 2 credits of co-op, which is about 220 hours in a sector-related area. And it can also be a summer co-op. We're gearing up actually this week for students to get ready for summer co-op, that they essentially will be immersed with an employer out in the community, again, very related to their sector. It's really exciting. This year, we're rolling out a new co-op course called the DCO, where a student can design their own co-op experience, something that they feel they need. It can be a virtual model, it can be a blended model, given what this time in history we're in right now. The virtual piece has been a big component, and I think has gone really, really well. So that's an exciting piece for them. We find our biggest challenge, though, is finding meaningful placements for our students. Because these are some wonderful, amazing kids with some really great skills. We'd like to match them up with some really wonderful employers, which is a big deal for a student, right? To see their pathway to go, wow, I can connect to that employer. They're like a role model for me. So it's a big piece. The other piece is it's the first step, the stepping block to the Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program, which is another part of my portfolio. Let's see. Click on the next thing. So the Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program is a part of the Ministry of Labour. So I wear a couple of different hats inside the Ministry of Education, but it's one of probably the most exciting things for a student to see. So at 16 years old, a student can become an Ontario registered youth apprentice. The criteria is they have to be 16 years of age, have 16 credits accumulated, and be full-time secondary students. So the first step, the student goes out and finds a great, or working with their teacher, finds a great employer. For instance, we're going to say Pringle Ford from the picture. So this student connected with Pringle Ford, working as a mechanic in a co-op placement, worked for a little while. The employer went, wow, this is an amazing student. 16 years old, we want to take that student and basically immerse them into our company or into our business and train him or her the way we would like, the training we want them to have. Very relevant for, obviously in this case, for the Ford environment. So the first step, we sign a participant form. They get registered with the Ministry of Labour, so we can help with more further training. We can offer safety, like personal protective equipment, to help them be successful in that position. Those hours do count towards their apprenticeship, even as a participant. Once the employer says, perfect, I love this student, they're amazing, I'm going to sign, it's called an RTA, Registered Training Agreement. That's when basically they are now, for all intents and purposes, a employee of the company, gathering their hours, and they are eligible to go for phase 1 for their college level courses. So each trade typically takes, you have 3 phases at the college level, phase 1, 2, and 3. So a student coming out of grade 12 theoretically can have be a phase 1 complete apprentice with many, many hours under their belt and eligible for funding to help with post-secondary. So it really does give them a step forward in being able to complete their apprenticeship early on in their career. Another big component of the Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program is our Women in Trades funding, which led us to our Women in Trades event that Melissa and Jason have been such a huge help in organizing and making such a great success over the last few years. So I think I'll be handing that off to Melissa to talk about all the wonderful things she does. Thank you very much, everybody.
All right, so I just wanted to quickly give you kind of a snapshot of how many students are we talking about in Limestone that are doing SHSM. So just over this past year, we had 200 students or over 200 students enrolled in LDSV SHSM. So that's grade 11 and 12 students, and about 40% of those are identify as female. So some of the top sectors that females are going into are arts and culture, health and wellness, hospitality and tourism, transportation is another big one. So those are some of the ones that we have our females interested in. And this year we've had over 100 students will earn their SHSM Red Seal, with approximately 50% of those identifying as female. So we've had huge improvements over the last couple of years with female students being involved in the trades programs. And we'd like to think that it's because of some of the work that, you know, we've been doing around engaging female students in some of the activities that we do. So when we look at our journey with the Women in Trades events so far, so we have the Women in Trades event that we ran in 2018. Then we did an Educators Day in the spring of 2018, followed up by the following year, we did a fall Women in Trades event again. And then what's next? We kind of are still in that stage of deciding, you know, what does this look like this fall, and you know, will we have to push it a little bit, or will it be virtually? We haven't really decided yet. It'll depend on what type of funding we get and what that looks like, but we're definitely thinking about, you know, what's next for these types of events. So Women in Trades in 2018, so that was our first one that we ran. We had about 348 students from grade 7 to 11 at St. Lawrence College. We had 29 educators. We had 21 community partners at the event. So the outline of the day, again, it was in the fall, was from about 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock. Students were bused or took city bus to the event. We had keynote speaker Emily Chung, who's amazing. Look her up. She's a great speaker. We have some videos on the Limestone site. Actually, I've recorded her as our keynote, so you can see that there. We had breakout sessions at that event, so you can see them there. Auto body. We had steam fitters, brick and stone masonry. It was great to see all of the students interacting and dropping into each of those stations and just being able to explore it themselves. Something we found, I think, at the end of that day, it was such a big event. We actually had, you know, to kind of, we extended our cutoff, and then we kind of had to make our cutoff because originally we thought about 200 students, and then it was overwhelming the amount of students that wanted to come. So we did extend that to, you know, close to 350. But what we found that day was that many students were just touching the surface of what trades was all about, and that, you know, we would reflect about that and what the following year looked like for the event. So these are some of we asked some survey questions around getting some student voice. Do you see yourself in the trades in the future that day when we did the trades event? And so about 70 female students said yes, that they see themselves in trades in the future. And then, you know, just over 50 students said maybe. So they were still kind of exploring. So that was great feedback to see from the day. When we look at our Women in Trades event for the educators, it was a full day event. We had 30 elementary and secondary female educators come. Again, the same kind of feel. We had, you know, keynote speakers. We had breakouts for the educators. It was interesting because I think this kind of came about from the teachers that were a part of the student day in the fall and said, we would love to experience this. We would love to be able to explore this. And so really pushed for a day to happen. So we made that happen, and it's nice because now they were mentors in their buildings, being able to describe the experience that they had with just that one day of exploring a trade or a couple of trades, and be able to share that back with students and really encourage the students when they're looking at their pathway planning with students at the high school or elementary level. So these are some of our pictures of the day. So teacher educators were able to roam around and try a bunch of different culinary. They did some masonry. There was a few projects that they walked away with at the end of the day. But overall, it was a great day. In the middle there, we have our superintendent who came in and joined us for the day, Geoff Silver. Yeah, so it was great. We had elementary. There's some elementary educators there, working on welding. And just exploring and talking to some of the tradespeople that joined us that day. So then we look at 2019. So we changed it a little bit, and we offered it to 294 students. 224 of those were from LDSB. 29 educators. We then brought in another school board, so Algonquin School Board we brought in, as well as we had about 24 community partners involved in the day. So the day looked similar, but we had it more so that they had more time in a trade to explore as opposed to just touching the surface. And we started a bit earlier, had our keynote speaker, and they got to pick some sessions that they would like to go to in blocks of time. So same type of sessions that we offered, but just we also extended and had an opportunity alley at St. Lawrence. So we had a bunch of local partners with us that were able to set up a booth and share information with students over the lunch hour, over breaks. We had many parents came and got to see their students exploring the trades, which was awesome to see. And so some student voice from that day, would you consider a career in the trade? So we had about 116 responses, and over 50% are looking at exploring the trades. So in elementary, would you consider, so we had some elementary students there that day. So we had about 84, which would have been almost all of our elementary students responded to the survey. Would you consider yourself taking a trades focused course in high school? And 52% said yes, and 39% said maybe. So that was great to see after our day together. Would you prefer to have a female only trades focused class? So with our keynote speaker, we talked a lot about, equity within the trades. And so we were curious to ask some questions as our exit survey around how they were feeling about female in a trades class. And so this was an interesting response. So we had 21% said, yeah, it would be great to have a female only one. But other students said, maybe or no. I think it's actually okay that we have male students in the class, which is something I think we originally at the high school level would often think that, females aren't comfortable going because there's male mentors in there often, and they're maybe not comfortable being in an auto class or a shop class. And that may be not the case. So we kind of, we proved our what we originally thought may be wrong by some of the student voice that we captured that day. So then it takes us to the Wits program. So Wits is a Women in Trades program that we offer that's within the school, within a college program at the college level. Typically, Limestone runs this once per year. Usually second semester. So we usually run a full SWAC program at the college level first semester. That's for both males and female students. And then second semester, we run the Women in Trades program. So it's connected with a dual credit program. So dual credit is where a student will have the opportunity to earn a high school credit as well as a college credit while in high school. So they will be taught by an LDSB teacher. So we have a teacher at the college. And we also have another facilitator that helps run the program. So they together team up and offer this programming for students right in a classroom at the college. So we have 20 students typically that we take in. At the beginning when we started running Wits, it was tough to fill the 20 spots. Now we have no issues. We should actually almost have Wits running all year if we could afford to fund it for sure. So we have, a process that we go through in terms of choosing the students now. So we take 20 students typically, and they vary in terms of, we try to, make it across the board, and some students are from alternative centers. But essentially they do a dual credit from February to May, so 14-week dual credit. And the options might include welding, taste of trades, you know, they have addictions courses, college prep courses, lots of different options for them to choose from. And then their timetable typically looks like they have English and math on Mondays, and then they'll go out to do dual credit or co-op Tuesday or Wednesday. And then Thursday and Friday, they do kind of high school courses that they have remaining. Typically, students in the Wits program are close to graduation. And this is kind of the step towards then, you know, their next step to their post-secondary step is typically how it runs. Lots of students, you know, will come into Wits maybe early and then want to stay another semester in Wits. And so we have that challenge right now that we're trying to figure out how to support with that. But yeah, it's a really great program. There's lots of, like Jason and Geoff will talk about, there's lots of opportunities for them to do, like they did working at heights training, they did first aid training, lots of opportunities for people to come into the college and do training with them, or they go out to the sites. With those 20 students, they can really narrow in on what training and certifications that they really want and to explore. So they offer those to those students. We've tagged a bunch of slideshows and opportunity, like videos in here that you can take an opportunity. I'm sure we can send the slides out later. But there's lots of videos on the Limestone YouTube channel of our variety of our programs. The Wits slideshow is there, as well as opportunities. So here's some of the girls in the Wits program. So they would, you know, take the opportunity to go and explore what trade interests them, and they really push them to actually try each one of the trades, even if they're not interested. So they do a rotation through, I think there's 8 different trades now that they do a rotation through to just even test out. And what they're finding is that lots of students, you know, didn't think that they'd be interested in, say, plumbing, but actually really enjoy it, and it fits their characteristics and skills that they have. So bricklaying. There's some forestry courses. So there's some of the students in action. So there's some of the videos, like I said before, that you can take a look at. We had some videos made on our Women in Trades event in 2018, which are awesome videos. Majority of the students are alumni students, which is great to see them, you know, 5 years down the road where, you know, they're in the trade and immersed, and they can come back and mentor and talk to students that they, you know, went to the same high school and they can relate. So that's awesome to see. So you can have a look at those videos. They're linked there, but also on the Limestone YouTube channel. So then I'm going to turn it over to Jason. Thank you guys so much, and I'm excited to hear your questions at the end.
Thanks, Melissa and Geoff. Thanks, Melissa, again for steering. Melissa is the one who's clicking all of the slides as we present. So what I'm going to speak to now is what's happening at the elementary level in Limestone, as well as sort of creating a bit of a sense of history and how we got to where we're at. So I've been teaching since 1999, and I started off with you know, a focus with hands-on learning in my classroom, because that's what helped my students to be successful, as well as for me to feel good about coming to work every day. And then after that, and at about 2006, Limestone opened up basically 2.5 elementary district tech programs for elementary. There's one full-time program that was at First Avenue Public School that then migrated over to Molly Brant in 2016. There's another full-time one at Amherstview Public School, and then there's a half-time one at Calvin Park. And what each of these programs do is they service a family of schools. So I used to teach for the QECDI family of schools. So I would teach every grade 6, 7, and 8 student from Frontenac, Rideau Heights, Simcoe, First Avenue, as well as Marysville on the island. And then eventually we would take on Central as well. So what that means is that each of these programs services one family of school, but that often represents half a dozen elementary schools. And each of those probably has a couple classes in and of themselves. So each of the district sites provides experiential learning, typically in the form of culinary and woodworking and pathways exploration to hundreds and hundreds of kids. So what I realized later on was that as my own kids grew up and my own kids said, I can't wait to take tech someday, Dad. And I realized, well, you know what? Your family of schools doesn't have a tech program. And so with that sort of inspiration, I proposed the Itinerant Experiential program, which basically involved me taking the show on the road. I knew that when I was a classroom teacher, I could provide experiential learning in my classroom. So why can't I do it again just, 15 years later? And why can't I support my peers to do the same thing? Because now I personally have the demonstrated capacity and I know all of the rules. And now that I know all the rules, I can help them bring experiential learning to their students. And so for 2 years, I essentially took the show on the road and I traveled to, I can't even remember now how many it was. Anyways, quite a lot of different dozens and dozens of teachers in their classrooms. But the thing about that itinerant program that's important is that I provided 1 week of programming with one discipline. And so when I say discipline, now what I'm saying is one economic sector. So Melissa might have said, I really want to do woodworking with my grade 8 class. And then I would go to Melissa's school and show her how to make that a reality. Well, Geoff at the school down the road might say, what I really would like to do is culinary. And then I would come do a site evaluation, work with Geoff to then provide culinary programming with his students. So it wouldn't be uncommon for me to spend half a month at one particular elementary school getting to know their intermediate division, but then also helping to create a culture where they're not willing to let this sort of programming go. And that's what's important. But what I also realized, and what we realized together as a group, was that one sector isn't enough and we can do more than that. And that's what led us to the class PD model. So the class PD model, oh, there we go, there are my notes. When I was an itinerant teacher, I taught 39 different classes that I went to and lived with them for about a week. You can see below that there are some YouTube links to some of the learning in limestone moments that were captured. Some are about culinary, some are about woodworking, some are also about our district programs. And so, yeah, that's great. Thanks, Melissa. But then what happens a lot is that elementary and secondary are different. Of course, the teachers teach all of their students, both, boys and girls together. They teach all of the subjects, and the funding model is different. So although a school or a teacher might want to do more hands-on learning with their students, well, how do they do that? And so what we realized was that contextualized learning activities, as well as reach ahead activities, are heavily funded envelopes of money from the Ministry of Education, and they're not necessarily restricted to secondary. And by providing these opportunities and contextualized learning to grade 7s and 8s and even grade 6s, what that does is that creates a bubble and a population of students who are working their way up and having the opportunity to realize where their strengths lie. So where a student might say to themselves, I'm not very good at math, the answer is actually you are good at math. You're just good at math in a different way. Thanks, Melissa. And so by providing integrated learning, students can connect to the curriculum better. We give them an opportunity to explore each sector. So in elementary, inquiry is a big style of learning. So if a student says, I'm keen on food and I like making food, well, let's explore all the different opportunities that lie there. Maybe you want to be a chef or a cook, but maybe you want to be a dietitian. Maybe you want to be a nutritionist. Maybe you want to be a food designer. Maybe you want to get into the media and the marketing aspects of these things. And that's how we can support our teachers to connect to the different types of elementary curriculum. And again, what it's helping to do and what we're realizing as that population of kids moves up is that we're expanding the HSM footprint in our board. So we're able to integrate more curriculum, increase student engagement. We can promote those 21st century competencies, which I'll talk about later on. But also what we're doing is we're helping teachers to better understand the pathways to secondary through elementary guidance and through My Blueprint. And what's important is that the teachers are now able to knowledgeably talk about all pathways, including college and skilled trades. You have to remember that an elementary teacher, the only way almost to become an elementary teacher is to have a university pathway. There are very, very few elementary teachers who would have a background in skilled trades personally. They might have respect for skilled trades. They might have people who they admire who work in the skilled trades, but that was not their path. And they do have a responsibility to speak to that path, and they want to very, very much. And one thing that I want to talk about is the increased student engagement. When I first started teaching, and that's fine, Melissa, you can just keep it there. But when I first started teaching, having students buy into curriculum, completing assignments, sometimes even coming to school was an issue. But when I brought in more experiential learning, my attendance went up, my behavior went down, my student buy-in for my assignments was greater because that activity was connected to what we were doing with our hands in our learning. And that was really important because I could say to a student, honestly, this is not a carrot and a stick, but if you want to be able to build that project later on, we have to talk about the math, because otherwise it's going to waste these resources, and they're expensive and they come from a real place. And money is not a worry for you to have as a kid. It's my job to bring these things in, but we also need to respect where that money comes from and to do the best job we can. And so what happened then is that we brought in 17 intermediate teachers who received what we call best practice training for hospitality and tourism, as well as construction. So instead of calling it cooking and instead of calling it, woodworking, we're referring it to now with a different discourse and language, which is connecting it to those economic sectors. Those teachers also received training from Keys, from St. Lawrence College, from Geoff, and from Melissa to better understand those pathways that exist past elementary. And that was a very big success, and those teachers are all able to independently provide those experiences in those two sectors or disciplines independently. And now in the year 2 of Class PD, which is this year, teachers are able to explore the other SHSM economic sectors. You see, because when it started, construction and hospitality were the sectors that I could best support personally. But when we go for teacher voice and student voice, maybe those aren't actually the sectors that the kids want to learn about. They are very popular, that goes without saying, but we have teachers who are doing food processing. We have teachers who have such a drive for social justice that they're connecting landscaping and not for profit. They're connecting what are some of the other ones? Arts and culture, health and wellness, environment. We have other teachers who are very, very keen on business. And so their students, all of their projects are self-sufficient in and of themselves. So the teachers were able to submit proposals just to do integrated programming based on an economic sector. And then Geoff and I and Melissa are able to provide them with the resources that they need. And so the barriers to success are something that I'm actually very proud of. Time, money, access to tools, connections to curriculum, teacher confidence, safety, and collegial support. These are the barriers that teachers have identified, and these are the ones that we are taking down. Teachers need to know that their time isn't being wasted because they have curricular expectations to meet. They need to know, how are we going to pay for this? And so I can show them through curriculum and through integration that their time is not wasted, and in fact, it's better spent. Because we're able to access different envelopes of money, they don't need to worry so much about how are they going to pay for these things, because typically in elementary, a lot of it comes out of your own pocket. And projects like this are too big for teachers to support. And the other part is the time to process resources and to get them, typically that comes out of your family's time. So what that means is that now, myself and Geoff, and we can provide those resources for them because that's our job. Our job is to help you be successful and to help you bring to your students what they need. Teachers were very clear that they did not necessarily have the confidence that they needed to take on this sorts of learning. So when I go in, or when somebody like me comes in to work with them, they realize, okay, you know what? It's going to be okay. It's not that big a deal. The kids were great. In fact, they're better behaved when we're doing these sorts of learning than sometimes when I'm trying to teach the more traditional curriculum. My job, of course, is to know all of the rules and safety that are involved, because between the Ministry of Labor, the Ministry of Health, and the variety of other ministries, it's very important that we are transparent and above board with everything that we do, and we are. The days of teaching behind closed doors don't have to happen anymore. And then the other part that's interesting is the administration and collegial community buy-in. And so at first people are worried that they're not going to be supported to do these things. And then what we realized is that support pours in once you break the inertia. Like I was saying, teachers have an incredible amount of responsibility and a lot of curriculum to teach. So once I can get rid of this, sometimes I refer to it as clutter, it's important. But once I get rid of this and I show them that we can do this curriculum, they settle down and we can start to talk about other things. So for example, this is a mind map of an integrated sewing deer hide project. So this connects in an Indigenous portfolio. It brought in an elder. And when I'm able to show the teacher, no, look, relax, we're doing phys ed, we're doing language, we're doing math, we're doing science. And it's all based on the curriculum they're responsible to report on. Now that week of experiential programming isn't lost time. And in fact, it's probably more productive time. Now here's an idea that I like to throw out once in a while. When we answer teachers, or when teachers answer questions about public education, of course, the majority of it, our answers are to be student-centered. Here's an idea. How about if the teacher's happy, there's a better probability that the students will be happy. If the teachers are doing something that they believe in and they are passionate about and they want to come into work on a Thursday morning, their students are going to catch on to that. This slide is very important to me because this is how I've been teaching for 22 years. And it's through these collaborations with Melissa's portfolio, Indigenous portfolio, Geoff's SHSM portfolio, OYAT portfolio, by having an elementary voice in these discussions, all we're doing is we're creating more students who want to be in the trades, more girls and more boys who see themselves as being independent and strong, who see themselves as smart, who see themselves as knowing what they're good at. So well, Melissa and Geoff know, I'm all about return on investment. I like return on investment. And sometimes those things are hard to capture, but we can. The professional engagement we have for our teachers is incredibly high. I have a waiting list of teachers who are waiting for me to work with them. And if COVID hadn't hit, I would have been running wild this whole spring because I had a list of teachers in intermediate who are waiting for me to come work with them and their students. The parental feedback and the student feedback that we're getting is amazing. Parents are saying things like, it's about time. Parents are saying things like, thank goodness. Parents are writing emails and texts and tweets that are saying, my son cooked dinner for me today. And those are very meaningful data for us. Every culinary kit, for example, that I've created, and they're expensive, has had a 100% rate of return. Every kit I make, I bring it to your house. Once it's in your house, nobody wants it to leave. So I can say to Melissa, listen, you use this culinary kit, but there might come a time that I'm gonna need to take it back. But if your admin and your parent council want to, I've already done all the work. All the tools are safe. They're all above board into code. If you wanna buy it, you can just buy it. I'll go make another one. So a 100% rate of return on any financial investment, in my opinion, is pretty good. Demand is high. And I can't stress enough that the student engagement is so high that we have students who come to school injured and sick. I'll have a kid get off a bus and they will sit and I'll look at them and I'll say respectfully, you don't look very good. Why are you here? And they know that for 5 days we're doing this programming and they're coming to work sick and hurt. And that is not usually what we struggle with intermediate teachers and students. And so our teachers have bought in and they have said out loud, I can do this in my classroom now. I feel comfortable. I can connect to curriculum. But I got to be honest with you, I really don't understand what happens after elementary. And we've learned that we need to come back again and do this more than once. And our teachers are really taking it in, and this gives them an opportunity to knowledgeably now talk about these pathways. And the thing that's interesting as well is when they sit in the chair as a teacher and then they leave as a parent and an aunt and an uncle and a grandma and a grandpa because they see their own kids and their own people in their lives because they realize there are fantastic opportunities in the skilled trades. and I didn't know about how much support there is for my kid or for my niece or for my granddaughter. And that has a big impact on your practice. And the sort of returns on investment that are sometimes hard to capture at first because they're highly quantitative are how we change as people. This document, 21st Century Competencies, is a focus on basically soft skills, interpersonal, cognitive, and interpersonal. And this is a huge part of the programming that we're doing right now, because this is what creates good students, good people, and good employees. When you are engaged in experiential learning, you have lots of reason to persevere. Students who are woodworking will go after that nail 100 times because they are so invested. When that sandwich doesn't flip over quite the way you want, or when that meal doesn't quite work out, that is an emotional endeavor. And how wonderful to think that you actually care about your learning so much that you would get upset about it. Thank you, Melissa. So this right here, for example, is called the resiliency chart. If I don't tell kids what resiliency is, I talk about what it feels like. If you feel like you want to punch somebody and you don't, you're being resilient. If you feel like you want to swear and you don't, you're being resilient. If you feel like you want to swear and you kind of do it under your breath, you know what? Even that's being resilient. And that is a strength that comes from inside of you. So what we do with our students is I make it very real and raw. And so every time that you realize that you have been strong, go color a square. Every time that you've been frustrated and you in your own way have taken the high road, go color a square. And this is a really, really beautiful piece of quantitative data to capture a qualitative phenomena. Thanks, Melissa. So we want our students to ask themselves, who am I? What am I good at? Like, where can I see myself in the future? And because of these experiential learning like opportunities, we now have a shared experience to reach back to with our curriculum and through our reflection. And so this is a big part of what we're doing. And these, oh, that's fine, Melissa, that's great. So what you're looking at right here is that I teach you how to do things properly and safely. And for 3 days, when I'm working with, 25 to 30, 14-year-olds, you kind of have to do what I say. And once you've demonstrated that you are safe and reasonable, then you can do what you want to do. That sort of resembles the workplace a little bit, I think, once you've earned those credits. And the thing about these projects that are important is that they are 100% authentic, original, student-driven, and meeting the needs of other people in their community. The boys who created this custom chick warmer, quite frankly, were not in the good books with the primary teachers. They had made a few mistakes on the yard, but this was an incredible mending activity, and this really showed how much they care about the younger learners in their school. And this one to the left was made by a young girl for the custodian. Custom made spray bottle holder for his chariot for when he's doing his work. Now that, I don't get involved in these projects once I've taught the kids how to do it. No, so this to me is the level of design, empathy for your clients, and thoughtfulness that we want to see in the workplace. And it's starting off in grade 6, 7, and 8. Our teenagers are sometimes hard to work with, but they also are kids and they want to be trusted. Every week when we work with our students, we ask them to do the simple reflection activity. I wish blank could see me woodworking because, or see me cooking because. Reflection is a very difficult activity. You could do years and years of research on reflection. So sometimes maybe the best thing to do to reflect is to try to imagine somebody else seeing you. And the responses that I get for this activity, without question, will make you laugh and make you cry on a weekly basis. I wish Grumpy could see me because I'll prove that I'm not a tech-obsessed millennial and I could make it in the real world. So that was a girl from Napanee. I wish my mom could see me woodworking because I want her to trust me more. I wish Grandma could see me woodworking because she thinks I can't do anything and I want to prove her wrong. I wish my dad could see me woodworking because he would be proud of me. He always wanted a little boy so I can prove to him that I'm better than any boy out there. And I don't see him much, so we could be together for once. So these are how we're trying to start the journey earlier in elementary so that when our students, male and female, are working their way up to then get to Melissa and Geoff and their colleagues, that they have a better sense of who they are, what kind of person they want to be, and how they can see themselves taking care of themselves and contributing to our community. So thank you, Melissa, for steering.
Yeah, no worries.
So I guess we're done.
Okay. Gabby?
Yes, I'm here. I'm just sort of
I didn't
catching my breath
expect to.
here.
I know this was so remarkable. I didn't expect to want to cry at the end, but but
Very
I'm just
moving.
I'm just moved by all of this information and the amazing work that you all do and that educators do for our children and our future. And really, I'm going to look so forward to promoting this recording far and wide, because parents, other teachers, other educators, business people, you name it, our community, we need to know this more. We need to know what you're doing. And also you talk quite a bit about funding. So I'd like to learn more about your funding challenges and where they're being met. So, I mean, maybe that's something that we can get involved in the future to help you as well. I don't know. But this has opened up a lot of ideas running it through my head. I'm sure Gabby's as well. But I have to open the floor now to questions from other people.
Yes, I'm just, yes, before we do that, I just want to say it's a wow. I am just blown away. I've always been in the business and hospitality world for many years, and I don't have children, but I'm an aunt over and over and over again. And I am just blown, and it brings me to tears. For what you're doing, starting the children so young. I wish I had that in our time when I went to school. I think it is so, so, so important to build their base as they embrace their future and their journey in their life. So I commend the three of you. What you shared this morning is very moving, and we definitely want to help more using our leverage and who we have and who we are in any way we can. And I think there's further discussion needed. But as we said about this whole thing that we started this month of June, this is just the beginning. And I think there's a great need, and I think collaboration and partnership opportunities do wonderful things for so much for our community. So congratulations to the three of you and all that you are doing now and what you're doing and bringing our youth, that our generation behind us, how important that is. I tip my hat, honestly. It's thank you, thank you, thank you. So let me see if I can find some questions here. Sorry, I just had to share that. I was just so moved. Could you remove your beautiful presentation just for a moment, just to make sure I'm not missing out here on something? Sorry.
That's okay. There we go.
No, I think, you know what, you must have covered everything extremely well because there's no questions. It's just been awesome. As I said, we definitely want to stay in touch with you all and see how we can be of assistance in some way through what we do and collaborate more. And as Josie said about the funding, but bringing also forth what you're doing and bringing that out more to our network. I mean, we have 1,300 in our leadership, and there are a diverse group. So the more we can do to help, we're there with you in any way we can. Thank you. So,
Gabby,
Josie,
there is a question from Christina.
Okay, it just came up now. Sorry. Yes. How do you use my blueprint with your grade 6, 7, 8 students when you are traveling roadshow?
You know what's interesting? Maybe I'll let Melissa start with that, and then I'll backfill. This is definitely Melissa's expertise.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. So for those of you who don't know what My Blueprint is, so My Blueprint is a tool that we use with our board. It's like a career planning tool. It's an amazing tool that we're really fortunate to have. And so you can look it up if you just search myblueprint.ca. It's a tool that they can create resumes, they can create portfolios, they can create their cover letter, they can explore different opportunities for their future. So just to go to answer your question, Krista. So right now, we're actually at the bridging point right now and wanting to be able to expand. We don't have it for our grade 6 students currently. It's just for our secondary students. And so previous to, I think, some of this work that we've done, we didn't have time, we didn't branch it out far enough yet. And so now we have momentum, I would say, in the secondary using the My Blueprint tool. So our next step is asking for permission to have and funding to have that for our students in grades 6, 7, 8, or even 4 to 8 is what we would love to have for them. So yeah, we use it right now just in terms of grade 9s and 10s are using it for co-op, for all of their like portfolio planning. Our careers classes using the tool quite often. Our school's community classes are using it for how they can branch out to the community and connect with their community partners. So I would say we've done a lot of work with our secondary, and now we're ready to move to our elementary pieces now. I don't know, Jason, if you want to jump into that.
Yeah, for sure. So at the elementary level, at almost like on the ground level, if you can imagine, we have a room and it's filled with cooking opportunity, culinary opportunity. To explore My Blueprint is almost like one more station. You have to imagine a teacher juggling all of these plates and spinning all these plates at the same time. So perhaps I'm in the hot zone and I'm managing the fry pans and where the kids are making their Western omelets. And at this point, I trust them with the knives and their safety and their best practice over on the other side of the room. But why don't we have another station where if you're done or if you're waiting, then you can explore My Blueprint and say, what's a university pathway that's connected to culinary? What's a college pathway that's connected to culinary? What's a workplace pathway? And the big thing as well with kids and almost all people is their ability to articulate what they're good at and their strengths in the language that the person who's listening accepts and recognizes. So if you ask a 14-year-old, well, what are you good at, or what strengths do you have? They'll be like, well, I don't know. But through the 21st century competencies and through My Blueprint, they're able to say things like, well, I'm trustworthy and I know how to manage my time because when my grandparents go away, they leave me the code of their house and I water their plants and I take care of things to make sure that their insurance is maintained. And so they're able to do just even little things like that is a very big deal. And the advantage that gives you in your local community when you show up to the restaurant and you say, well, you know what? I know that it's really important to be flexible, and I know that I need to respect the personal protective equipment that is provided for me when I'm working in this restaurant. And I understand that when people come here, this is a special night for them and they're spending their hard-earned money, and it's our job to try to make sure that whether it's chicken fingers and fries or something much, much fancier, that all of it's important. Those are the things that we try to weave into My Blueprint and into our language activities while we're doing this at elementary.
And I will say, Krista, just to answer your question a little bit more, so we had intermediate guidance, right, for 2 years, or for a year, I guess, last year. And so they brought My Blueprint into the grade 7, 8 classrooms and used it with the teachers. So I would say our goal now is to be, now that we don't have those individuals as intermediate guidance because of funding cuts, we obviously are trying to keep the momentum with our 7, 8 teachers, but also want to be able to extend it now that Jason's extending kind of the grade 6 teachers, making sure that they also have the opportunity to use the tool of My Blueprint. So I would say, yeah, we've had most focus for My Blueprint on 9 to 12, but last year was our first year kind of expanding it much more to 7 and 8, and then we'd like to expand to grade 6 or even lower in terms of the goal setting and developing the skills, looking at what they have to, in terms of skills to offer and exploring the career options.
That's great. I'm just looking here. Evelyn Zaya said, love your passion. Thank you so much. Great information. You just answered some of the questions regarding having access for grade 7s and 8s. Does your board use something different for grade 7 and 8s for the IPPX?
I would say majority of them are using my blueprint.
Yeah.
And if not, they're doing some other type of portfolio tool, or you know, they might be using the Minds On portfolio tool, or just doing goal setting within their class as a regular for IPP. But I would say majority, from the experience of the grade 7-8 guidance going in, the intermediate guidance going in and supporting every elementary school that we had last year, was a huge jump start with getting teachers engaged in my blueprint. And so that was really effective.
Krista Ray said here, I used my blueprint with 6 of our grade 7 and 8 classes this year, all tied in with my visits to the green energy technology and construction. Sorry, it's moving here. Sorry. Pardon me. And construction challenges. They loved it. We should take some more. We should talk some more. Not take some more. We should talk some more. That's what she said. Judith, no, wonderful information. So sorry, I have to go. Edward, in our board, we use Outflow instead of my blueprint. What is that? Just curious. When we do similar experimental sessions, the reflections go right into Nello Exo. Perhaps that can be an option versus the blueprint.
Yeah, so my blueprint has that option as well. So we have the My Class Pass app that we use for my blueprint. So the kids can actually use a device, take a picture of their experience and write a reflection right within it from their device using like a QR code system with the class. So that's been really effective. So I think that's similar to what Edward's talking about there with the Zello.
Great. Well, I think that's most of the questions we have right now. Thank you again. I just have a few announcements. As I said, this was our last presentation for the month of June for our theme, but a very important presentation, and we thank you again very much for sharing what you did this morning. For the month of July and August, we want to support local, the tourism, the restaurant industry, hospitality. So our July and August platform will be promote local. We're calling it Shop, Eat, Play, and Explore. And that'll be launched July 1st. We have a special guest that's coming on July 1st to welcome that theme in from the city. And that gives us time, Josie, myself, to plan for the fall as we move forward. We've done these presentations for the last 12 weeks. And it's been very important, and we've learned a lot as well. But I think the digital aspect is going to continue for a while. So, and it's been great to meet everybody, not only just in Kingston in our community, but also across Ontario. And we're all coming together to help each other in all that we embrace during this time. So make sure, if you haven't been, do visit our website. You can subscribe. There's a bi-weekly newsletter that comes out. Just www.womenmeanbusiness.ca, and we also have a Women on the Move by Women Mean Business Facebook page. We're on the social platforms and always have some great information and resources in it. So thank you again, and to each of you, we wish you a wonderful summer, and we look forward to seeing you this fall, and all the best in all your endeavors. Thank you again. Josie, did you want to say anything?
Thank you very much. I just want to remind everybody that this has been recorded. It's actually going to be on our YouTube channel if you wish to view it at a different time. What we'll try to do is send everybody a link to the YouTube channel so you can take a look. Actually, the other 10 presentations that are there as well. They're all excellent. And honestly, we look very forward to promoting this particular presentation to parents and all our community members as well. So we hope to keep in touch with you. At least in the fall.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great week and a great summer. We'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.
Take very good care. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.